This week on a very special episode of The Big Show, let me adjust my camera because I want you to see me say this. We're celebrating our 12th anniversary with the plethora of films opening in theaters and on streaming platforms. We're talking Power the Dog, Tick, Tick, Boom, and King Richard. Charles Kirkland and I are going to guide you over the next 60 minutes throughout this experience. So just strap in, and we're just going to have a lot of fun today. We'll have all that and more on episode 480 of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the 12th anniversary of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon, joined by Charles Kirkland. Charles, what's going on, man?
How come you didn't want to talk about Ghostbusters?
I mean, I didn't see Ghostbusters. I mean, we can put it down. I don't have an issue with it. You want to put me on blast. You know, it's really, now here's the irony, people at home. Charles is trying to put me out there. I literally asked Charles before we went on the air, Charles, what movies we going to talk? These are the movies I'm talking about today, right? Charles ain't say nothing about Ghostbusters. Charles waits until we get on the air to try to make me look like I'm not on top of my game when I didn't see Ghostbusters. I'm going to talk about Ghostbusters, but again, if you want to, you can. Do you want to?
We don't have to.
Yes, my point exactly. All right, so let me start the show by saying that this is actually my life in the nutshell, right? That I'm busy doing stuff and not really paying attention to the stuff we've done, right? So I wake up this morning to a text, and it was something that I had written 7 years ago, and I can't find it right now, so I will just paraphrase. But basically, I was writing several years ago, Charles, that of what the journey was like to that point. So it was like, this is 2013 that Facebook reminded me of this morning. That I remember the very first episode of this podcast. It was really interesting how it was done because I had the idea. I left BET back in 2000, at the end of 2007. In 2008, you know, I was really kind of floundering. We were in the middle of that huge economic recession, if you remember, Charles. And creatively, I was really struggling with what my next move was going to be, right? And I remember in early March, I saw this platform and I was like, you know, I haven't done radio in a minute. I kind of miss it. I think I want to go back and host the show again. But I didn't really know exactly. So I signed up in March and we didn't do the first show until November. So on a really cold night in November 19th, 2009, I called up a brother that I respected, who was one of my mentors. And he and I talked about, I was going to launch the show that night. And I think we prayed for about, 45 minutes. It was a super long prayer, man. And that was kind of the foundation of what we've done up to 480 episodes. I wrote something briefly, which I was just going to tease you with, Charles, because you doing the show with me every week. So I was going to say, we're talking about 12 years, 480 episodes. We've reviewed thousands of films on this show. We really have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've had hundreds of guests on this show. I mean, A-list actors, you know, people we've interviewed in conversations. It's all off of one show, man. So this show has been a blessing to me. It has connected me to my film critic community. For an example, if you go online and listen to last week's show, when we had a couple of younger new critics that we put on for the first time, you know, Lenita Cook and Emmanuel Noisette, I think was his name. Remember that, Charles?
Noisette.
I'm just humble. I'm thankful. You know, I don't get a chance, Charles, a lot to reflect on the journey. Next year will be my 30th year as a film critic, a professional film critic. And as the phrase goes, there are more years in front of me than there are behind me at this stage in the game. So I'm just trying to go out And as they say, man, I'm trying to leave it out on the court every episode because first of all, we building up to 500. And, I have to talk to you offline because I think there's a development about something that we can do for the 500th episode, which I think would be really, really cool. Secondly, at this stage, man, the show is just to be used as an instrument, not just for us to get information out every week to the audience on films that are out or interviews that we've done or things that are to come, whether it's film festivals, premieres, award season, etc. But it's a wonderful tool for us to sit down and really have conversation, Charles, about movies. And, before we came on, I was sharing with Charles that Turner Classic Movies, which is one of my go-to staples, had a bunch of films. I don't even like the phrase blaxploitation, films from the early 1970s. So last night I got an opportunity to rewatch Learning Tree. And I had a young man and I was kind of walking him through some scenes, not just of Superfly and Shaft's big score and some of the other things, but also Charles talking to him about some of the best car chase scenes in motion picture history in films like 1968's Bullet, 1971, The French Connection, which is a really interesting story, Charles, as an aside, that I listened to William Friedkin, who directed the French Connection. And he talked about that famous car scene or car chase that happens where you see Gene Hackman racing this car following a train that's above him. And Friedkin said that they never got a film permit for it. And he got in the car with Hackman and made him drive 26 blocks at 90 miles an hour. And it was saying that the scenes where you see crashes and almost crashes, he said all that stuff was real. We didn't write any of that stuff in the script. I had to get the shot. So 90 miles an hour for 26 city blocks in New York. And when you look on screen and you see cars pulling out and he either hits them or they almost getting hit, that's very real. So wow. the business of films to me are, and as I told my significant this morning, films to me are more than just movies, man. Films are art. They're things that you discuss. There's shots that you see in films, stuff that people in the business just take for granted. So we watch film from an entirely different prism on this show, and I am proud to share that with the audience on a week-to-week basis. I'm gonna shut up, Charles. I want you to reflect on your part in the 12-year odyssey. It's not 12 years a slave. It's 12 years we've been brave on keeping it real with FilmGordon. What are your thoughts on being a part of what I call this landmark endeavor that we've taken on?
This has been 5 years now. I've been working with the DC Film Society, and there's this guy who would come in and do this coming attractions show and an Oscar party and all that kind of stuff. And I'd see him and I was like, man, that dude has got it on point, right? And he comes up to me one day and he said, and I'm talking about my podcast that I'm doing, and he says, yo, I got a podcast. I need some help on my podcast. You gonna help me out? And one of my most gangsterous moves. Did it for me. I can help you, but what you gonna do for me? And from that point on, I'm ride or die with Tim Gordon, and I mean it's been a extraordinary pleasure because I've gone from just a local critic to now I'm a CC Critics Choice Award association critic. I've met people. I'm doing interviews, and it's all because of this podcast where I can just sit down and kick it with you on what we've seen and what we like, what we don't like, what's good, what's not good to us. And then we get to dive. And I think it's just a wonderful experience because you don't get to see it from our perspective, you know. A lot of times you've had Siskel and Ebert and you've got Arch Campbell and all those guys with their perspective. But it's something important when we get to share our perspective on what things look like to us and how it communicates to us. Right. So I feel I hate to use the word proud, but I am proud to be a part of this show that gives the opportunity for us to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I agree with you, and thank you for those words, man. I think the other thing that's interesting that had me kind of nostalgic last night, and I'm trying to hold it up in the camera right now. I don't know if people can see it, but WHUR 96.3 is also celebrating its 50th anniversary. And if you are outside the market and you don't know what WHUR is, it's actually Howard University Radio, which went on the air in 1971. And I've worked a lot of places in my life, man. I've been a part of a lot of media. I've worked for BET. I've done, was the online critic for Jet.com back in the day. You work at Radio One. I've done that. But there's something really special about WHUR. It's a heritage station. I spent 7 years there producing, afternoon shows, morning shows, live with Doug and Lorna. It's a special, special place, man. So I'm repping my shirt because I'm like, yo, they just put a mural up yesterday down at Macy's in DC, in Metro Center, of 50 years of WHUR. And despite the fact that my face wasn't on the, my face was, I was looking for me. I was like, I didn't make it. I was just a producer, man. I wasn't talented, but I still feel that I played a part in that, much in the way that Charles plays a part in this show, right? I get the headlines, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that y'all guys don't know. And a leader is only as good as the people who are like, okay, I buy into your vision. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with a couple of the films that we have coming up. So that's enough of 12 years, and for further history, you can go to the FilmGordon.com. I think there's 200 and, Charles, I want to say 43, 44 pages of reviews, interviews, all kind of stuff throughout the years. Or you can go to our YouTube channel. There's tons of content there at the Film Gordon. It's just been a lot of fun, man. So today, Charles, I'm really excited, man, because when we're in the middle of award season, we watch a lot of these movies really, really early at places like TIFF or the Toronto International Film Fest, the Middleburg Film Fest that happens here locally in October that we cover. We'd been gone. They've flown us out to LA to go to the premiere of a couple of films. I know Charles was out there for Belfast, right? Which came out last week. I was out there for Power of the Dog. Power of the Dog is in theaters now. While we were out in LA, we talked about not just being out there for Belfast and Power of the Dog, but we got a chance to I got a chance because Charles wasn't there yet, to see King Richard with Will Smith and the cast. So I'll talk about that some more today as we review it. And then, Charles, did you get a chance to watch Tick, Tick, Boom?
Yes, of course. Yes.
From what is my guy's name? Lin-Manuel Miranda. Film about Jonathan Larson that has squarely put Andrew Garfield and Will Smith and Benedict Cumberbatch in this kind of three-way looking each other in the eye front runners for Best Actor this year. 3 phenomenal performances, and we get a chance to talk Tick, Tick, Boom. You told me we should hold off on Bruise for next week since that's coming out Thanksgiving week, as well as True Story, which is the Kevin Hart, Wesley Snipes project that's coming out. And by the way, did you listen to the interview yesterday?
I did not.
Okay, so when you get a chance, I interviewed Wesley Snipes early this week. That was fun. I mean, that's like I want to say Brooklyn's Finest, this project. I've talked to Wesley, interviewed him at least twice, hung out with him at the Celebration of Black Cinema 2 years ago when Dolomite was a contender. So Wesley Snipes is, come on, man. I told Charles, you can be Blade to some people, you can be John Cutter and Passenger 57 to some other people. You can always be Nino Brown to me, man. Every time I see Wesley Snipes, it's Nino Brown, baby.
That's right.
That's me. Like every time I look at Wesley in the eye, I think about, man, what's going on up at the Carter? Everything good over there?
How does one get to be a CMB? Can I get
right? Cash Money Brothers, man. Am I my brother's keeper? I'm sorry, man. So I had a moment, man, but I love Wesley Snipes, man. So many really memorable roles, but check that interview out. All right, Charles, let's jump right into it, man. I don't know what movie to tackle first, man. Let's start off the day. You sure you don't want to talk about Ghostbusters? Because I just want to make sure for the record that I'm not denying you an opportunity to talk about I haven't seen it. You have. No?
Well, guess what? I put a review up on the site. If somebody wants to know how I feel about Ghostbusters, check it out on the site, FilmGordon.com.
All right. I can't argue with that, man. All right. So I think I know what we're going to do. Let's start off with the movie because I really want to spend a lot of time talking about the other two. So let's start off with Tick, Tick, Boom. All right. Tick, Tick, Boom. And I didn't have it pulled up, but I will pull it up now. Excuse me. This is what happens when people at home going, what is he doing? Dude got like multiple. I got a computer center over here, man, with computers. That's why I'm like all over the place. I'm looking at y'all. Look.
He's like, what? Was he not prepared? What is he doing?
I was not prepared because again, I'm freestyling, man. This is a special show, man.
On the cusp of
all right, so I want to set it up properly because I don't want people to get the impression. No, I'm getting ready to do it now. Look at this. In 1992, a few years before the premiere of Rent, Jonathan Larson, played by Andrew Garfield, performs his rock monologue "Tick Tick Boom" in front of an audience at the New York Theater Workshop. Accompanied by his friends Roger and Caressa Johnson, Larson begins telling a story about events surrounding the week before his 30th birthday and his desire to become a successful music theater producer. Tick, Tick, Boom is directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda in his feature directorial debut. And it stars, as I said, Andrew Garfield, Robin De Jesus, Alexandria Shipp, Joshua Henry, and Vanessa Hudgens. All right, Charles, I'm going to go first on this one, man. I am a guy, and I will just say this, preferencing, I like musicals, right? And I've said it on this show once. I'll say it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. A musical is only as good as its songbook, right? Like just like a regular feature film is only as good as its screenplay. A documentary is only as good as the point of view that the director is trying to give you. So now that we've established those three things as fact, right? If you want to fight me, fight as fact. Let's talk about Tick, Tick, Boom. Tick, Tick, Boom, when it first started off, right? I wasn't really paying attention because I literally, Charles, watch a lot of movies where I'm multitasking, right? Like when I'm home, like in the theater, I'm good because I can just focus in on something. But if I'm home, I might be writing something, looking at something. So Tick, Tick, Boom really in the first act didn't grab me initially the first time I saw it. What really got me is that sequence that they have in the middle of the film or like early in the between the first, second acts, where they're at the Moon Dance Diner, Charles. The scene exactly that I'm talking about that has all the celebrity cameos in it. And, when I saw that Sunday, I was like, okay, I'm with you. The very next scene, I saw my man Black Thought. I was like, I'm in this. This is good. This film to me, I was surprised because I had read some of the buzz about, not necessarily any reviews, but like the buzz that people were really feeling it. And Andrew Garfield was great. Man, toward that third act, man, I was sitting there. I came down at the end of it. I was like, all right, God. Man. Woo! So two things that jumped out at the very end of this film for me is one, I need to rewatch Rent because now understanding the flow and the cadence that Jonathan Larson wrote, Rent makes perfect sense after Tick, Tick, Boom, right? Secondly, Andrew Garfield being a British actor, it's just fantastic what he's done in this film, man. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda's direction, the storytelling, the songs all work because they're all Jonathan Larson songs. This movie, again, if you don't like musicals, I could clearly hear people at home going, man, I'm not really feeling any musicals. I'm not trying to watch that. But if you're a person who likes musicals, Tick, Tick, Boom works really, really well. And Andrew Garfield, I've said it about Will Smith, and I'll say it about him when we talk about his film. It's really ironic, Charles, because the three movies that we're going to review today all have the leads that I think are going to be nominated for Best Actor, including the one, which I'm not going to say, who I think is the winner. But I think 3 of the 5 nominees are in the 3 films that we're talking about today. Andrew Garfield has punched his ticket, tick, tick, boom, really, really special. Charles, what did you think about this movie?
I really, really like this movie as well. I think that Lin-Manuel Miranda does a great job of adapting the play, because the Tick, Tick, Boom was a play that Jonathan Larson did, and a lot of it was exactly as it was written. But Miranda rearranges, changes a few things in here that are significant to tell the story, because it really is an autobiographical story of Jonathan Larson as he's trying to create a play.
Yes.
It's just delightful. I was in from the beginning, and because for me, I've seen a lot of Miranda's stuff. He's done a lot of things in Hamilton, In the Heights, which just came out earlier this summer, Vivo, and so there's a certain cadence that Miranda has. And so when we get into this film and the cadence is totally different because he's doing Larson songs, I was like, okay, fresh. This is really nice. I'm down with this. And I knew who Jonathan Larson was. I knew that he had done Rent, but they drop a little nugget in toward the end. Well, they drop it in at the very beginning of the movie, and then they follow it up at the end that I really did not know about Jonathan Larson. And so I was a little shocked, but I'm sure that lots of people who are in the theater world, but it just put the whole thing in a new light. And yes, 525,600 minutes, one of my favorite songs of all time. And so now I need to go back and see Rent again, because the man was a genius. The man was a genius that he created these 2 plays, and I loved everything about it. All
right, man. Look, Tick, Tick, Boom is it on Netflix now? Is it in theaters now and it's coming on Netflix? I'm really confused with this whole when stuff is on Netflix, when it's in the theater. I don't know. I just know be on the lookout, because I don't think it's on. Is it on Netflix now?
It's on Netflix now. It's premiered November 19th.
All right. My apologies, my friends at Netflix. Y'all got to do a better job of letting the brother know. Now, Charles is funny because when it disappears out of box.
The thing about it is Netflix has been kind of tricky. They've announced a release date, and then they would switch and drop it in theaters. And so we've had a couple films that did that with them, but this is one that they're sticking to. November 19th.
So Tick, Tick, Boom is playing on Netflix right now. Check it out for yourself. Now, next up, also another Netflix movie is Power of the Dog. And this film tells the story of 2 brothers who are ranchers, Phil and George Burbank, played respectively by Benedict Cumberbatch and Jesse Clemens, who George meets a widow and inn owner, Rose Gordon, played by Kirsten Dunst, when they and their workers have dinner at her place of work. The kind-hearted George is quickly taken in with Rose, while the volatile Phil, a close follower of the masculine teachings, Charles, of the late father figure Bronco Henry, knows his teenage son Peter for his lisp and feminine mannerisms. And that is the beginning of what I think is one of the year's best dramas, Power of the Dog, which is written and directed by Jane Campion. Many people remember her from The Piano. And it's based on the 1967 novel of the same name by Thomas Savage. The film stars, as I said recently, Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange, Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, Cody Smith McPhee, with a bunch of other folks in here. Charles, Power the Dog. I'm trying to think. I've seen this movie twice now. Okay. Power the Dog. Charles and I saw it together. We talked about this at Middleburg, right? And despite the fact that it was late in the afternoon, it was probably about 4:00 when we watched it in Middleburg, right, Charles? 4:30, something like that. We had watched some other films.
No, that was the last film of the night.
Right, last film of the night.
Yeah.
And I was watching it, and I was trying to follow the story, and I was like, okay, Benedict Cumberbatch he's very rude in this movie. And I knew that the middle of it was long and slowish. But by the time this film gets to the third act and you really start to understand where it's going, and then you see that final scene or two, I was in. So I jump up out the chair. I go, oh man, that movie was sneaky good. It just snuck up on you, right? Charles was like, man, that sucked. It was slow.
I didn't say it sucked, did I? I thought I was not impressed. Yes.
Charles was not impressed. Okay, I'll use it. Charles was not impressed. I said, Charles, you didn't really get that movie? And Charles came back the next day, and to his credit was like, I slept on it. You were right. I was like, dude, Power the Dog is really good. So basically, as we talk about the setup, the thing that I think is really interesting about Power the Dog, and it's very hard to do, is to have a character who literally creates a sense of dread, right? Whether it's on the page is one thing, but in order to act it out and execute it, Benedict Cumberbatch, people might think that his Doctor Strange is a little arrogant, but Doctor Strange, and that he might not be nice. This character here, it just takes the air away and puts a dark cloud over the entire ranch in Montana, right? Every place he goes, he makes it tense. Rose, played by Kirsten Dunst, is just kind of, she's going through it. She's starting to drink. Jesse Plemons, his brother, wants to separate and have his own life, but his brother won't let him. We keep hearing about, according to Bronco Henry is this man's man, which when you watch the film, you figure that out. And then there's Cody Smith McPhee, right? Cody Smith McPhee is this really creative kid who is not, as we talk about his feminine mannerisms, is not a guy who is a rough man of the country. He's kind of a guy who's studying medicine and he's doing his thing. But let's just say I got a call this morning from Shireen Nicole, who basically we have been debating about the character's motivations and the part when he makes the decision to do what he does in the film. And if you listen, when you get it home, here's a clue, Charles. Listen to the opening of Power of the Dog, the narration at the beginning, and that sets the foundation for the entire story. So when she played that for me this morning, I was like, pretty much she's right. So, hey, Power of the Dog is, I really don't want to spoil it, man. Just Power of the Dog is a story that if you just follow it, it sneaks up on you. And by the time it hits you, you're like, it almost feels like, Charles, somebody lassos you with a rope, right? And the rope is just kind of hanging on your body. And the longer the film goes, the tighter the rope gets until the end when it's around your throat. And by the time you figure out it's around your throat, it's too late. You're like, it got me. That's what Power of the Dog felt like to me. Charles Kirkland, talk about your experience with this extraordinary film.
I don't know where to go because you already kind of explained it. And the thing about it was in Middleburg, it was the last film of the whole festival. And so you're sitting there and you're watching this thing and it's going and it's going and it's going and you're like, where is this going? All I can say is the Power of the Dog is about the power of the film. This because any other film, I would have left the theater and said, I'm done with it. That movie stuck with you. It held on to you as you were going through the rest of your life. You're like, but wait a minute. And so just like you said, it sneaks up on you and grabs you. And then you're like, my God, what is this that I've seen? Again, Benedict Cumberbatch plays just a despicable person. And when you talk to him, he said he had to really work to do this role because it's just not something that he was so evil. He was uncomfortable in playing him. And so I give kudos to Cumberbatch for pulling this performance off. It is remarkable. This is a remarkable film. It really is.
And again, to my earlier point, another person who has punched his ticket for Best Actor this year, Benedict Cumberbatch, man, extraordinary work, man, in Power of the Dog, which leads us to Charles, and I'm setting it up because I was listening to you because you were just, dropping some super science, which you always do about these movies, which leads us to the third film that I want to discuss today. And I don't know what to say about this movie other than to say it was the opening night film for the Middleburg Film Fest. I got a chance to see it again when I was out in Los Angeles with a real crowd, and not to disparage the festival crowd. There's a big difference when you watch movies at a film festival because, Charles has always heard me refer to it as the festival bubble, right? Everybody's there and they're feeling all good. And you watch the movie, everybody go, woo, that movie is great. And then you see that movie in theaters months later, you're like,
what was I looking at?
Right. Look, it played well at Sundance. But King Richard is based on a true story that follows the journey of Richard Williams, an undeterred father instrumental in raising two of the most extraordinarily gifted athletes of all time, who will end up changing the sport of tennis forever. Now, Williams is driven by a clear vision of their future and using unconventional methods. He has a plan that will take Venus and Serena Williams from the streets of Compton to the global stage as legendary icons. King Richard is directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green. Let me say that one more time. Is directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green. Put some respect on his name. This is his third feature. You did the dang thing, Ronaldo Marcus Green. Written by Zach Balin and follows the life of Richard Williams. The film, of course, stars Will Smith in the title role, Anjanae Ellis, love her and everything she's done, young Sanaya Sidney, Demi Singleton, Tony Goldwyn, and John Bernenthal. Now, Charles, I've seen this movie. I was taking notes when I saw it again in LA. And the thing about this movie, there's so many what I call life nuggets that are in the screenplay that tell the story of Richard Williams, right? Here's a father, first of all, who looked at his salary. They say it in the film. I'm making $52,000 a year. He sees a tennis guy or a tennis person make like $40,000 in one weekend. He's like, you know what? We got to do something.
I'm in the wrong business.
I'm in the wrong business, right? So he goes to his wife. Listen to this. I just want you to listen to the setup. He goes to his wife years earlier. We need to make another couple kids. He writes a 78-page manifesto for how he wants to kind of execute this whole tennis vision. His wife signs on. Venus and Serena are born. He doesn't know anything about tennis. He's reading books while he's working his security guard job. He's reading tennis manuals. He finds people in there that help him, that he wants to coach his daughters. He's telling any and everybody, hey, I got these daughters who can play tennis well. They're learning on the concrete of Compton, California, outside, no glitz, no glamour. He's teaching them. It is, if you think about it, Charles, I got my hands to my face because it's almost like a supernatural story of how this guy literally willed something into existence, right? So you think about, as an aside, think about Tiger Woods, right? So Tiger Woods' his father is ex-military. He had access to money. Golf is a much more expensive game. He drills Tiger from a very early age, but he just had Tiger. Richard Williams had Venus and Serena, right? So
on top of all the other girls.
On top of all, but I'm just saying that these were the two that he really groomed to do this. And the fact that all his girls were like exceptional in their studies and they all were honor roll level students just says that sometimes the media, if they don't understand something, wants to paint it that you're crazy, when in actuality, Richard Williams is a genius, right? Now, everything he does might not be spot on the way that you and I and the audience may want to live our lives or raise our kids. But just look at Venus and Serena. There's no crack ups. They're highly functioning super champions. But so that being aside about Richard Williams, let's talk about the performances. Will Smith is almost unrecognizable. Like if you didn't know Will Smith and you really kind of watch the film, it's very easy for Will to kind of submerge himself or immerse himself into the life of Richard Williams. He changes his speech patterns, which he even teased when he was at the LA event about how Richard Williams doesn't move his tongue. So when he did Richard Williams' voice, he kind of demonstrated it. It was funny, but it was like, okay, I see what you did there, Will. Aunjanue Ellis, instead of the screenplay painting her as the dutiful wife who goes along with every decision that her husband makes, is not that at all. And it mirrors their real life. And Aunjanue Ellis and Will Smith's chemistry, how they go back and forth in this film is fantastic. Let's talk about the girls, because Charles wrote this in his review, and I heard her say it in person. Sanaya Sidney, right? Who plays Venus, right?
Sanaya Sidney, that's right.
Sanaya Sidney is left-handed by born as a lefty. She had to learn how to play tennis as a right-handed player to play Venus Williams in this role, which again, Charles, look. Oh my God. Demi Singleton, who plays young Serena, dude, everything about this movie works. I know there are people that are telling me, man, King Richard ain't gonna be no Best Picture nominee. I'm gonna tell you one thing for sure. Will Smith is getting nominated, and I said I wouldn't say this. I didn't say it, Charles. Look, Will Smith.
Don't say it. Don't say it, because if you say it, you might jinx.
Will Smith, it is your time, brother. You look, Will Smith. So King Richard is really good. Charles, what are your thoughts on King Richard?
Again, you took almost everything, but also you talked about Zach Baylin being the writer. This is his first writing credit as a writer for this film. He writes this thing in a way that we can see exactly what is in his mind. I was amazed that this was his first script ever. So I thought a great job just on the writing, on the story. But yeah, Will Smith, Aunjanue Ellis, you got the Punisher playing a tennis coach. Come on. And it works. It works. Tony Goldwyn, who is another tennis coach. And it works. Everything about this movie is fantastic. And I don't know about Will Smith being unrecognizable, because it's Will Smith. But he does really just immerse himself in this role, and his range of emotion is incredible. Everything that he does, it inspires a person as a parent. And when you see what he does with how he loves his children, how he protects his children, and he tells us one story about how he didn't get that same protecting from his father.
Oh my God. Dude, I was sitting next to a guy at the theater when he told that story in the third act, and the guy literally started crying next to me. FYI, go back and watch last week's show. That guy was on the show last week. He's like, I was like, bruh, that film, man, I'm telling you, you don't hear me say this often, right? There are lots of movies we watch, man, where guys like have a concept, right? And it's very different, Charles, as we've talked for years on the show, of having something on the paper and then having that thing on the paper be brought to life on the screen, right? It's a matter sometimes of casting the right actors. It's a matter sometimes of the execution. It's a matter sometimes of the editing, because a lot of times you might have a great movie, and when you go to take it in a room and cut it, and the director and the editor is sitting there, something might fall between the cracks. Like the editor, the editor, and we talk about this a lot, and I know we're talking about King Richards, but as an aside, because I just want to make a major point. As an aside, think about being a director, right? And you're sitting there, you got the paper, you watch the actors doing the scene, you're sitting in the chair, right? They execute said scene, you go cut. When you say cut, you got to be thinking as a director in your mind, all right, at some point, I'm going to see this again on the dailies. Let me take a look at it, right? Charles, you know what I'm talking about? Take a look at it. Yep, I want to see it. And then at some point, I need to take all these separate shots. And then looking at the screenplay, we got to build this movie out. And then sometimes there may be some stuff we shot, that once we put the movie together, it just doesn't work as much. Take that out. Sometimes people take out the wrong stuff and the story doesn't flow. Sometimes you put in too much stuff and your movie is, you hear people like Charles and I say, man, that movie is 15, 20 minutes too long. It's a very delicate balance that I think between Zach Balin's script, between Ronaldo Marcus Green and whoever his editor were, they did, as we say on the streets, they did the damn thing. Put some respect on Ronaldo Marcus Green's name. Will Smith is Will Smith. Ajane Ellis is Ajane Ellis, right? So you know what you're going to get from those two. But the fact that, Sanaa Sidney and Demi Singleton, I love this movie. And I think Will Smith impressed me. I mean, Will Smith is Will Smith. But this is really, really a strong story for him, man. So, and again, a guy I think is going to be nominated for Best Actor this year. I almost know he's going to be nominated for Best Actor, along with Andrew Garfield, along with Benedict Cumberbatch. Excuse me, all these movies are going to be hitting. These all work really, really well to various degrees. If you either like musicals, excuse me, if you like musicals, Power of the Dog, as I said, sneaks up on you. You got to give it some patience and some time, and it'll do what it does. King Richard is like a crowd pleaser. So, you go into this movie, there's going to be a lot of, there's some laughs, there's a lot of drama. There's some moments where you're like, ooh, damn, he went through that. Growing up in Compton ain't easy. And they show it to you in the movie.
The one last thing I want to say about this film is a gem, because we never see this in especially in the African American world, where a parent is positive let me say this, a father is positively involved in the life of a superstar. I mean, every time we see it before, we've seen the negative aspect, or he's just absent, or he just doesn't know how to handle this prodigy that he has. But in this film, Richard, and that's why it's called King Richard, he is the man here. He knows where he's going, what he's doing, and he's totally involved from beginning to end. And so it's just outstanding.
It is. I agree with you, man. So let's look back now. So we talked about, Power of the Dog. We talked about King Richard. We talked about Tick, Tick, Boom. Also this week, we talking about King Richard. Will Smith, I came to Charles with a concept that I thought was really interesting called Top 5. And we did our inaugural, episode of Will Smith as our top 5, which was really funny because one of us, and I'm not gonna say any names, not Tim Gordon, didn't do the homework that was involved in order to make this first episode hum. But that person, I think, has now gotten it, not Tim Gordon, and we will be ready to go next week with our next top 5. And said person, not Tim Gordon, will make sure that he is on his job so that we can deliver for the public, not Tim Gordon, the best information. I'm teasing, Charles. That was funny.
All I'm going to say is go back to the tape, because the instructions you gave on the show were different from the instructions you gave prior to the show. So, I adapted to what was presented to the audience as you were describing what the show was. So
the fluidity of these situations, man. It's just, you gotta be light on your feet, man. I mean, you gotta think. You remember when Muhammad Ali was in his prime and he would say, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. On this show, one needs to float like a butterfly, man. You got to be able to move and, get in there, take some punches, man, do what you need to do. Because every week we're going to knock out the audience. Well, not knock them out. We're going to impress them to the point where they feel like they're knocked out. But yeah, this was a really good movie week, man. And I just say that to say that we have so many of these weeks where during the year where we may have one movie we like, and then there are a couple like, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I've heard, from what I heard is that if you haven't seen the original film, there might be a struggle for you in trying to understand and figure it out. And that's not the first film we've seen this year. I think, what was the other film we talked about a couple of months ago? It was the same thing, that if you didn't see the first film, oh, when we talked about the Many Saints of Newark, that's what I think a lot of what I was reading from people about Ghostbusters Afterlife was along the same vein of the Many Saints of Newark, which is a movie you could appreciate. But if you never watched the show and you didn't understand who these characters were, you would miss a lot of the nuance of the story. And, again, the more I talk about film, and as I always get teased at home, because it's like, why are you watching that movie again? Because I'm always seeing something new every time I watch movies. That helps me break it down further for the audience. So I'll just say, TCM is not giving me any money to promote their movies, man. So we've already said too much for TCM this weekend. But, if you're watching this show tonight, man, and you've heard us rave about King Richard, it's a movie I've been waiting for the public to see for a couple of weeks now, because I'm like, man, wait till that movie drops. Also, equally next week, I can't wait to talk about that, because there are two really compelling projects, Charles, that we have to talk about. In addition to, I'm assuming that there's going to be some other films that are going to be released for the Thanksgiving holiday that don't come out of Netflix. I'm assuming that, Charles. Am I right?
Actually, there's one this week that we kind of slipped up on.
Which one was that?
Come On comes out this week as well.
Oh, snap. Do we have time for Come On? Oh, man. Come on. Dang, Charles. Okay, quickly. Let me do it to justice, because I can actually talk about this. Charles saw this movie before I did and put me on game, because I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling Joaquin, but Charles raved about this movie. And let's talk about it a little bit. I'm so sorry about Come On. I didn't do it intentionally. We both saw it, so let's talk about it. Come On tells the story of a radio journalist played by Joaquin Phoenix, who's left to take care of his precocious young nephew, played by, I think it's Woody Norman. Yeah.
Woody Norman, yes.
Who forges an unexpected bond over a cross-country trip. The film is written and directed by Mike Mills, who did The Beginners, and it's done several other films that I liked a lot. And it stars Joaquin Phoenix, Gabby Hoffman, Scoot McNairy, and we talked about Woody Norman. Quickly, since we don't have a lot of time, I really like this movie. I thought this was a very different side of Joaquin Phoenix, who normally plays these really offbeat characters. Here, he's just a normal guy who is trying to help his sister out by taking his nephew off of his hands. Now, his nephew is this really smart, intelligent. He's not necessarily a special needs kid, is he, Charles?
No.
I didn't get that, but I got the fact that he was really, really smart. He had a really huge kind of imagination, and the two of them bond over him recording interviews with other young children. And I'm not sure if it was for a documentary, a book, or what it was, maybe because I was sort of kind of watching the performances and not really keying in on the story. But the bond that the two of them established is really, really wonderful and sweet. And for Joaquin Phoenix, who I think they're going to make a push for him for Best Actor, because he's a guy who's been there. He's really solid. Now, I'm not as sold on Joaquin Phoenix as I am on Cumberbatch, Smith, and Garfield. But I think this is a really good look for him. And then in the year of the child, you heard us say earlier, talking about Demi Singleton, Sanaa Sidney. There have been extraordinary young child actors this year. And you add Woody Norman to the list. He's really, really special in this. I like Come On. I'm not going to say I liked it as much as the first three films, but this would be a solid B for me, where those other three would either be A's or B pluses. Charles?
And you forgot to mention the child from Belfast.
My God, I forgot about him. What is his name? He played Buddy. His character's name was Buddy. I can't remember his name.
Jade Hill.
Oh, yeah. I told you it's the year of the kid. There's some extraordinary young actors coming into the game. But what did you think about Come On?
I really, and like you said, I put you onto this movie because I saw it first.
Yep.
And what the performance of Woody Norman is the one that really makes the movie what it is. Just in that he's so special and so enlightened at times. He seems more mature than Phoenix at points in the movie where they're both bringing each other along. And I thought it was a brilliant movie. I would give it probably a B plus on a scale, because and again, this is another one of those movies about parenting and working together and trying to get to the same place. And I think Woody Norman's character enhanced Joaquin Phoenix's life, and Joaquin Phoenix did the same for him. It's a fabulous movie. When you come out of it, you want to invest more time with your child. Again, this is one of those type of movies, and I thought it was excellent.
It's a really good movie weekend, man, across the board, man. So I think that's all the time we have there. That movie is out in theaters now, so you can check out Come On, along with the other three that we referenced: Power the Dog, Tick, Tick, Boom, and King Richard, which is on HBO Max and in theaters tonight. So that's all we have. Wow, it sounds funny to say this, but episode 480, the 12th anniversary of this show, man. It's a wrap. Wow. We'll be back next week to start working on year 13 with more movies for Thanksgiving. As we tell you in closing every week, please see something good at the movies. We've given you 4 wonderful recommendations, King Richard. Get out there and check out your movies tonight, Power the Dog. And let us know what you think. Charles, it's always a pleasure. Tick, tick, boom. And come on. And we'll see you guys on the other side. You guys take care. We'll see you next week. Bye.